Good afternoon, guys. My name is Mr. Smith, and today we're going to talk about the Code of Ethics and Standard Practices for Texas Educators. And then we're going to go over some examples of real life cases that have happened in the last couple of years and some ideas that maybe you guys might have that would help prevent these from happening again in the future. So, obviously, for the Code of Ethics, there are three overall enforceable standards. Professional ethical conduct, practices, and performance is standard number one. You scroll down, ethical conduct towards professional colleagues is standard number two, and then professional and ethical conduct towards students is number three. The one we're going to talk about today is going to be ethical conduct towards students. We're going to talk about the third standard. So we're just going to real quick go through these standards. Standard 3.1, educators shall not reveal confidential information concerning students unless disclosure serves lawful professional purposes or is required by law. Remember, we all sign a form when we first start with a district that says we will not unlawfully give away student or professional information. Standard 3.2, the educator shall not intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly treat a student or minor in a manner that adversely affects or endangers the learning, physical health, mental health, or safety of that student or minor. Standard 3.3, the educator shall not intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly misrepresent facts regarding a student. Standard 3.4, the educator shall not exclude a student from participation in a program, deny benefits to the student, or grant an advantage to the student on the basis of race, color, gender, disability, national origin, religion, family status, or sexual orientation. 3.5, the educator shall not intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly engage in physical mistreatment, neglect, or abuse of a student or minor. 3.6, the educator shall not solicit or engage in sexual conduct or romantic relationship with a student or minor. 3.7, educator shall not furnish alcohol or illegal unauthorized drugs to any person under 21 years of age unless the educator is a parent or guardian of that child, or knowingly allow any person under 21 years of age unless the educator is a parent or guardian of that child to consume alcohol or illegal unauthorized drugs in the presence of an educator. The educator shall maintain appropriate professional educator-student relationships and boundaries based on a reasonable, prudent educator standard for 3.8. And the last one, 3.9, the educator shall refrain from inappropriate communication with a student or minor, including but not limited to electronic communication such as cell phones, text messaging, emails, instant messaging, blogging, or any other social network communication. And then there are a list of factors below that may be considered, spending too much time on communication, what you send, and the nature of the text. So obviously, standard 3.9 is going to be even more relevant now because we're doing all online for the most part, right? So with so much online classroom time, the time communication spent between educator and student or educator and parent has drastically increased electronically. So you just got to make sure that whatever you're sending to that student, to that parent, to that peer, to your administration, right, it needs to remain professional and it needs to remain on topic. There should not be any, obviously, inappropriate text of a sexual or demeaning or abusive nature being sent to anybody. But I have examples of a couple that we are going to talk about today. And the first one that we are going to go over is standard 3.5. The educator shall not intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly engage in physical mistreatment or neglect of a student. So I have an article that I pulled up of a substitute teacher in the state of Texas who was caught on video abusing a 16-year-old high school student. The student wasn't paying attention in class, was being loud, and the substitute teacher punched her in the face repeatedly, after which she pushed her on the ground and began to stomp on her face. The teacher was obviously removed from the classroom, is no longer allowed to teach in the state of Texas, and is in jail. But now you have a student who's afraid of going back to school or even go around the school. She gets headaches. She's physically been affected by this experience, and mentally, clearly, she's been affected by this experience. So while that's one teacher, the number of cases doesn't seem to be going down. So here's my question to you that I want you to engage with your group is, as educators, our job is to better our students. Our job is to go in and have a safe, inviting, carefree, right, comfortable environment that they can learn in. where they want to come in and they engage and they're having fun and then they're really retaining that information. That can't happen when they're scared to come into the school. So what can we do as educators to help our students feel more comfortable? How can we create a safer, more inclusive classroom? And what are some ideas that you have? Obviously, we're all obligated to report if we see something like this, but what are some ideas that you have that could help stop events like this from happening? Just take a few minutes, talk with your group, and then you'll talk as a class. Okay, so the next one that I want to go over is going to be relationships with your students. Obviously, you need to maintain an appropriate professional educator-student relationship and boundaries based on reasonable standards for yourself. But Standard 3.6 says it's not solicit, engage in sexual conduct or romantic relationship with a student or minor. Now, I'd love to say that, hey, this has never happened and this isn't something that you're ever going to see again. But unfortunately, it's something that has gone up. The cases have gone up by the hundreds since like 2008. And it's getting worse, right? And so it's not just male teachers, it's not just female teachers, it's both, and it's something that is not okay, right? And so I'm going to look at, there was a case in 2018 where there was a teacher accused of, there have been cases every year where teachers have been accused of sexual relationships with their student, whether it be oral, whether it be like a physical sexual thing, like whatever it is. But the cases continue to go up, and this is mentally and physically damaging to these students because this is something that they will never forget. And the number of teachers from this article, it goes through since fiscal year 2017, the TEA opened 429 cases into inappropriate student-educator relationships, an approximately 42% increase from the year prior. And then it went up even more that year before. And it was in like the 120s in 2008. So you can see in 10 years, it's gone up 300 cases a year of inappropriate student-teacher relations. So next question that I have for you guys is, what can we do to better our professionalism? What can we do to be better teachers and prevent our peers from engaging in activities like this? How can we make sure that we keep the classroom a professional, safe, educational setting, right? And how do you help students that have gone through this? How do you help students that go through things like this at home, that have gone through things like this in the classroom? How can we better set up our students for success and avoid these situations altogether? Go ahead and talk about that as a class, and then we will talk about it or go ahead and talk about it in your group, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it as a class. Thank you, guys.